Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm doing really great. I'm actually sitting down this episode. I don't know if you remember, if you listened to a few episodes ago, I mentioned raising my desk up a little bit higher. So I was standing up for the past few episodes and, I finally got a stool. So it's kind of a little bit better. I kind of feel a little bit cool. I have one leg up on the little bar stool leg and then one leg on the ground. So I feel like I'm really making some kind of appearance. I don't know, doing something. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of rambling. I went to a Mexican restaurant with a friend, well, with two friends of mine, and it was outdoor seating and all sort of stuff because COVID. And, it was my first time actually having a beer before, or having alcohol before doing one of these recordings. So that's something it was just one beer, but I'm not like buzzed or anything like that. But it was just something that I took into effect because we went there and everyone was ordering alcohol, and I had a friend that ordered a margarita and I had a friend that ordered a beer, and I was like, what should I do? I thought I was going to just stick with water, but I decided with a beer. I was going to choose a margarita actually, like right when the waitress walked away. I was like, I think I want a margarita. But if I was trying to do a podcast after having a margarita like tequila, it might not have been very good at all. I mean, hey, it may have been better, who knows. But anyway, hope y'all have been doing well. That was just kind of my rant for the day. I'm not sure if any of you watched Umbrella Academy, but that was something I was recently binging, and I finally finished the second season. I did the first season when it first came out a while ago, but I wanted to rewatch it, so I rewatched it. A lot of stuff that was picked up from the first season that I didn't really recognize the first time, but second season was really great. Obviously, there's going to be a third season. If you've seen the season, obviously they're probably going to come out with another season, but really good show. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's something to watch. Watch it and check it out. I've been kind of just like trying to watch some new things. There's this show called The Outsider, and it's on Hulu. I've been watching it on Hulu, and it stars Jason Bateman. Well, Jason Bateman's like in the first like two episodes or so, but yeah, it's a really good show. Check that out. I've been kind of like bogged by this kind of storyline that they have. I've mentioned a few times that I'm really into true crime and things like that, and this is kind of like true crime meets like supernatural type of thing, and I'm really just like wrapped into it. A friend of mine suggested it to me, and it's really been, I don't know, it caught me in a whirlwind. I was watching it a lot last night, but I got super tired, and usually I stay up really late. I've been staying up until like 2 o'clock recently, but last night I think it was like 12 o'clock that I decided to finally go to bed, but really tired. So today was a long day. Got a lot done. Started renovations again on my trailer. I feel like I'm just telling you about my life right now. You probably don't care. I've just been doing a lot. It's been good. It's been rewarding. I've had some downtime to watch things. This week has gone by so fast. So hope all you've enjoyed it. Hope you've had some good times. I'm going to try to go into this because again, this is just an episode with me. I do want to apologize about last episode. I feel like it was kind of all over the place. I listened to it a couple times, but not since it was published. So, after I publish it, I kind of just like to let it, like, leave it because otherwise I'm just going to keep criticizing it. And, there are a few things that, just with episodes that I try to kind of stay authentic to who I am and not, like, want to cut too much out because, mistakes are part of life, and silliness is part of life, and all those cringy moments when you're like, why'd you do that, but that's also part of life, and that's part of who we are. So I don't like to take those out when I'm doing the editing, but then after it's released I realize that I'm like, oh shit, I should have taken that out. So I've been trying to do better at that, and part of that is just not listening to it after it's released. So I do want to apologize about that episode because I had planned on having someone there. I was in the works of having somebody come to speak on that episode about herbal medicines and things like that, and it was kind of a last minute change up of not being able to come, and it's no fault of anyone's because life is kind of crazy right now when there's just things all over the place. So I just kind of like got caught for a loop with some things, and I feel like it was just kind of not as in depth as I would like it to be. But like I said in the last episode, there's going to be a follow up, and there will be a guest on the show. I'm not sure if it's going to be the same guest I had planned on last time, but either way, it's going to be something where at the end of it you'll probably be able to create elixirs and shit like that afterwards. But anyway, hope that was something that was useful. I definitely gained a lot of information just from researching the stuff, but I'm not sure how much I actually put forward into the episode because, I think I spoke about last time just about how I started the recording and I didn't have the microphone plugged in. So there was just like a lot with that episode that by the time I actually recorded it, it was just like, let's just get this out and make sure the microphone's on while I'm doing it. So there's that. But anyway, I'm going to get along with this episode. I'm going to start with Box, get the episode out for next week, figure out what that topic is going to be, and hopefully it's something good, maybe something I know somebody that can join me on the show. Seasons. Oh, I remember a friend of mine gave me this episode. Seasons. And this isn't like seasons as in like, fall, winter, spring, and summer. This is like the seasons that we have within ourselves, the seasons that we kind of experience when we go through life, like the ups and the downs, like the moments when we know that we're like, oh, it's coming around that time of year. Maybe that you have certain feelings that arise. Maybe it's like just around the holidays with family and, seasonal depression is like a real thing. So seasons with life, I mean, we may not go directly into, certain things that people are dealing with as far as seasonal depression. Actually, we may go into that, but, just the topic of seasons, I think this is something that we can all resonate with in some degree. And when my friend first, suggested this to me, I was like, seasons? I was like, you want to just speak about like what's your favorite season type of thing? But, as he explained more of it, it resonated with me a lot. And just like that way of putting it. And that's why I love also people sending these topics in and just like these topics coming from other people, because there are ways, again, like we don't really have the words to express all the things that we're feeling or the things that we notice in life. So we start attributing them, individually towards what we feel that it resonates with or what we feel it says. And like we create the words to try to express what we mean. And his way of expressing these seasons and these valleys and ebbs and flows that we go through life, and that's seasons was his way of explaining that. And I think that's an amazing way of explaining just like the way that we experience life and the differences that we go through, the changes that we go through even throughout the year, whether it's 1 year or it's throughout a week. I think that we go through seasons in many different ways. So there's that, and I think that's going to be an amazing episode. So that is going to be the talk for next week. Okay, so the topic for this week is going to be stress, and oh man, like this is this is a topic that, I mean, I think that it speaks so much to all of us because we all deal with stress in some degree, whether it's stress and just trying to understand our life and like our place in it, understand our relationship, understand the what we want in our jobs, what we want in our in our lives. I think that stress is something that we experience in so many different levels, and also in so many multifaceted levels. And by that I mean there can be an accumulation of things that cause this abundance of stress to just build up, and it can be a lot of small things that individually you can get through, you can pass through, they no problem at all, but then they start accumulating, they start building up. And there's something that happens when those moments when we come across stressors and they're like, oh, like that's okay, like it's no big deal kind of thing. Those are things because we have coping mechanisms, we have things within ourselves that work towards those stresses and kind of help us to ease ourselves and stay in a place of being okay. So when those stresses start accumulating, there's a point when we stop recognizing when these things are coming towards us, when these things are starting to build up, and ultimately come to this point of just massive pressure where we just explode, where we just break down, where we just say, please just stop fucking talking, I need to get away and be by myself and just like breathe for a minute. And it's unfortunate that so many times we have to get to that point before we step away and attend to ourselves and attend to our needs. But that's kind of the world that we live in now, where it's just one thing after another so many times that we are in situations, whether it's trying to have that downtime, but also being worrying about finances, being worried about childcare, being worrying about all these different factors that attribute to, us wanting to attain the things that we want, but also, the things that are also standing in the way of us attaining those things. And there's something interesting with stress, and that I want to kind of just accentuate. And this is something that, as I was looking up, I was like, yes, this is something very important to speak about. Stress is that stress isn't necessarily bad. There's bad stress and there's good stress, and by that I mean there's positive stress and negative stress. I mean, I guess that's essentially saying the same thing, but essentially positive stress is the stress that we need to kind of motivate us to get us going, to get us, moving towards that new job, to get us to pass that test or whatever it is. It's that stress that gets us to kind of do those things that we want to do for ourselves. And it's like it's a stress, but also, like, I say that with air quotes because it's more like just an energetic drive, I like to say, where it's like that's something that's so necessary, where it's like maybe we are new on the job and we don't know exactly everything that we want to do, but we want to prove ourselves. We want to show that we are valuable, that we can, be there and do that job that we need to do. So we're kind of on our A game. We're seeing everything. We're kind of throwing out new ideas. We're putting all of ourselves forward, and that entire time we may have like butterflies in our stomach. It's very nerve-wracking in many situations when we're finally starting to move into a place that we want to be in. And that's like the stress that we need. That's the stress that we need to kind of just keep on moving to the top, keep on moving with those situations that otherwise we may just give up on because we don't care enough about. So that stress, that positive stress, is something that's so necessary. But there's this caveat of that negative stress, that stress that we all kind of attribute the word stress to. And this article that I was looking at described it as being distress. And obviously, like, there's the word, stress in distress. But when we're in distress, like when you're in distress, it's going to be a lot less comfortable. This is going to be the feeling that we have when there's just too much going on. There's just too much weight being put on us. There's just too much happening that it's hard to process for. It's hard for us to feel like we can breathe and we can be in this situation. And that's kind of when it starts to become a problem, because this negative stress, this anxiety, this feeling of just pressure on us, it starts to cause so many other factors, like not only physically, because I mean, like, there's cardiovascular issues, there's, blood pressure issues, there's issues with actual organs being influenced by the stress that's being produced. We have stress hormones, and those stress hormones start to decay the body, the joints, the muscles, the organs. Like, it gets into our blood. It starts to make our body decrepit. Like, just like the increase in stress. Like, you live a long, stressful life. You live a job that's very stressful. Maybe you've seen those posts where it's like the president in the beginning of their term and the president, 4 years after their term, or like at the end of their term, and you just see like the abundance or like the growth of gray hairs, the growth of lines, and all this other stuff, because that job is stressful. That position of power is stressful in many situations. So the more stress we have, the more it physically ages our body, but mentally, it does the same thing. It causes anxiety, it causes depression, it causes, I mean, even symptoms of PTSD or actual PTSD. Like, these are things that cause so many issues and disruptions in our lives, and it leads also to individuals using more substances, to losing focus in the things that they truly want to do in their lives, losing focus in, looking at their children, or paying attention to their children, or paying attention in their job, or whatever it is that they're doing, or in their relationship. Stress is something that's so insidious that it manifests itself, and it expresses itself in so many different ways. So when you start experiencing this stress, when you start experiencing this accumulation of just true distress, of just, overwhelming pressure on you, it's going to cause you to start exhibiting negative behaviors in all these other parts of your lives, within your relationships, within your job performance, within the relationship that you have with your children, within, just your day-to-day outlook of what life is. Stress is something that is so insidious, and if we don't recognize it, if we don't target it, if we don't do something about it, then it will literally kill us in many different ways. Externally and internally, it will just do negative things. So the biggest part of it is identifying it. Try to identify the things that are causing you stress. Identify the things that are bringing you stress in your life. And sometimes it's people, sometimes it's situations, sometimes it's the jobs that we have. And it's not always the easiest to just quit a job or to remove yourself from the people inside of your life. So it doesn't mean that we have to live with it. It doesn't mean that we have to sit with it and just stay with it. And something I do want to mention is that we have this erroneous idea that just because something is part of life means that we have to live with it and like have it just stay within our lives. Stress is a part of life, but it doesn't mean that we have to live with it. It just means that we have to understand what part of life that plays. And it plays that part of life of just saying that, okay, this is something that's too much. I've not given enough time to myself. I've not given enough time to breathe. I've not given enough time to kind of reflect on what I truly want. And a lot of times that happens with jobs where we get in the motions of just staying in a job because of finances, because of, just its comfort. It's something that we've always known, but it can cause us extreme stress or unhappiness. So when we don't really reflect on that, it's kind of, it just stays in our lives. It's like, I don't know why I'm unhappy, but I am unhappy. But you wake up, you go to the same job that you dislike, and then you come back and you go to sleep, and you kind of repeat the cycle over and over, but you're not really taking in that factor of that stress that's coming from this job that you really dislike, or this relationship that is causing you so much anxiety that it's not really anything that's beneficial anymore. It's not anything that's bringing you joy in your life. It's something that's actually taking joy away from your life. So, I mean, like, again, whatever it is that causes your stress, whatever it is that brings you stress in your life, the important thing is to recognize it. Recognize those things, and when you recognize it, then you can say, okay, like, these are the things that's causing me stress. That clarity and identifying, and I've brought this up so many times, it's like shoveling away the dirt and kind of getting to the root at what it is. And when you do that, you have so much more power in the situation, because now you can choose to have those things in your life or not. You can choose to figure out what to do with those stressors in your life. And a big part of having stress and recognizing that stress that you do have is recognizing how to use the tools that you have, use the people around you, and the things that you have in your life to alleviate that stress. And a lot of times people go to family, people go to friends, people use therapy even to help to get rid of some of the stress, or to even understand some of the stress that they have. And of course, people will use themselves. People will do the things that they know that they need for themselves in order to be okay. Sometimes that's spending time alone. Sometimes that's just like meditating. Sometimes that's deep breathing. Sometimes that's just doing something that is pleasurable for you. Maybe it's a hobby. We spoke about hobbies before. Great stress relief. There's so many things that we have, so many tools that we have that make us laugh, that make us feel joy, that make us feel relaxation, that we can implement in these times of being stressed. And it's so important because, again, a lot of times we feel as though, oh, stress, it's just part of life. Oh, my day was super shitty, this person was at it again, or my manager was down my neck again, like, about this, whatever it was. And it's just like, it causes stress, and we kind of just put it on the back burner because it's like, oh, this is just part of that, this is just part of that. But as long as we keep putting it to the back burner, it's going to keep boiling until it boils over. And that's kind of when it becomes that problem where we just become so overwhelmed that we can't see anything else. We can't do anything else. We are literally handicapped in our own life, caged in this enragement, in this distress that we've been building up for however long. So recognize that stress and recognize the tools that you have within yourself or around you that can help you to alleviate some of that stress when it's happening, because that's that's just going to keep building up, and it's not good for anyone. It's not good for yourself. It's not good for the person that is going to be on the receiving end of that yelling that happens because you're so overstressed. And there's so many times, even with me, where I've been extremely stressed, and I, kind of just blew up on someone with a situation that didn't really, like, it was disproportionate to what the situation was. And like, that's just something that happens when we build that stress up. When we don't really attend to those things, we lash that out on other things and other situations that it's not really that's not what's causing it. So we hurt other people, we hurt situations and circumstances. Sometimes you yell at your boss and you get you lose your job, and this is just stresses at home that's causing you to be stressed at work. So it's just a lot of things that we need to recognize within ourselves. The stressors are going to be different for everyone, and that's something that we all have to recognize. And a big thing that happened a lot of times when I was in counseling, when I was doing therapy for individuals, a lot of people don't recognize when they're being stressed out, when they're getting triggered by the things in their environment. And it's something that happens to all of us. Weeks can go by and we're slowly accumulating these small stressors. And this is something that I had to realize, where I mentioned this in the podcast, where I felt like I was just going and going and going, and like I hadn't really had much rest time. And that's stressful. Like a lot of times we can keep going, but we need to rest. Like we, even if it's like a day of rest, but after going and going, we start to get tense in our body. We start to be very single-minded with some things, and not really present in the places that we need to be present at. And it's because of all these other things that are starting to build up in our lives, that are starting to just fog up our mental space. And I found this checklist online, and it was kind of interesting just to do this checklist, because it just it's a stress symptom checklist, and essentially it has physical and psychological symptoms that you kind of check off according to how you're feeling. And if like a certain number would tell you whether it's low stress, moderate stress, high stress, or very high stress. And you kind of just check those off depending on like how many you have. And I did this checklist, and I actually had 12 of them. So 12 indicates that it's moderate stress. So low stress is between 0 and 7. Moderate stress is 8 to 14. High stress is 15 to 21. And very high stress is 22 plus. So there are a few different things on here. So physical symptoms: headaches, backaches, other pains, nausea, fatigue, constipation, hypoglycemia, appetite change. So just like a few different like things that you may notice within your body, or notice like just within your physical habits. And then also the physical symptoms: anxiety, depression, mood swings, loneliness, frequent worrying or obsessing, apathy. So like they're just like a few different things, and like obviously there are more on this list than those that I just listed, but you can check those out. I'll probably post this on the Instagram page along with one of the photos, just so that y'all can maybe check this out and see, what maybe you get on this list, if you get anything on this list, or just like to recognize your stress and things that may be presented as stressors. So within the 12 that I got on this, I think a lot of it is because of working out. So the physical symptoms, obviously headaches, well, not headaches. I did check headaches because I was having like some really crazy headaches, but I think it was because of lack of water. I'm so bad with drinking water. I love water. Water's like the only liquid that I drink other than alcohol every now and then. So I've just been really bad with that. So headaches have been to that, and backaches, tight muscles, neck pains, and shoulder pains. All of that's like probably due to working out and stuff like that. But again, like if it's something that you may need to notice within yourself, because sometimes we don't notice the mental symptoms, we don't notice the things that are happening mentally, but we notice in our body. We notice in our body when something's not right. And there's so many experiences where I didn't recognize that I was stressed out, or I wasn't feeling okay, like I was feeling sad or feeling anxious or something. I didn't notice that until I started noticing the physical symptoms, the physical things that were in my body when my body didn't feel right, when I felt like everything was like racing or moving fast. These are the things that we start to notice first. So this checklist could be something that's useful to just to identify some of these things, and recognize maybe times when you need to take a breath, take a breather, sit with yourself for 10 minutes, do one of those mandala drawings. I think that I've mentioned this before. That was one of the saving graces in our psychology program, just because we would have to see clients, we would have to, kind of deal with a lot of work. And one of the things that we would do, we would just go into the clinic. We had printout of mandalas. They're just like these really intricate, beautiful kind of designs that you color in, and it takes your mind out of just the things that are going around you. You're using different colors. You can use bright colors. Obviously, colors influence the psyche in different ways. So there are definitely so many different things that you can do. You can draw, again, like those hobbies that you have, perfect for stress relief. So find those things that get you to be okay. Find those things that decrease your stress and allow you to have a moment of peace, have a moment of just being okay. Because if this stuff keeps building up again, there are serious like physical and psychological consequences that are faced because of the stress that we take on in our lives. And a lot of times we feel as though it's necessary, but it's really voluntary when you think about it, because we have all the tools that we need to alleviate some of those stressors and alleviate a lot of those things to help us be okay in many situations. But you just have to find that. You have to figure out what that is. And obviously there are situations you can work and then come back home and need to like have childcare and feed the family and things like that. But tell me, is there not 5 minutes that you have to just say, I need to go to the bathroom, to, sit outside, or to take a walk to the mailbox? There are so many small things that we can do to just kind of be very mindful of ourselves, to breathe, to just shut our minds off, even for like a few minutes. That can do so much. There have actually been studies that shows that even just deep breathing exercises for 5 minutes, it can do so much to alleviate stress, the stresses that we have in our life. So find those things that are meaningful for you. Find that time that works the best for you, whether it's daily, whether it's maybe once a week. I don't know what your schedule is like or what your life is like, but find that time for yourself, because it's so necessary. You can't take care of anyone else or do anything else if you yourself are not in a place where you can mentally be there, where you can mentally or physically be there. So that's something that's so important to remember. We're so extraneous in our actions, so external in the things that we're focusing on, that we stop focusing on ourselves. And sometimes we need to put that focus on ourselves so that we can continue to do the things externally that we need to do for other people. So just pay attention to that. Know your stressors. If you can avoid them, then avoid them. If you can remove them for your life or work them out of your life in some kind of way, then do that, because these things aren't going to do you any good, especially if these are people that are stressing you out in your life. If you realize that someone around you or the people around you are causing you more stress than you need in your life, and you know what you need in your life, you know what you want in your life. If people are, constantly taking from you and causing you this distress in your life where you can't focus on the things that you truly want for yourself, then separate yourself from that person. Whether it's like just to a degree, whether you're like, okay, well, I can maybe deal with you once a week or a couple days a week, or maybe I can only deal with phone calls and every now and then, or a text message. Separate yourself to the degree that you need to do to be okay. And again, like, it all comes down to what you feel you need for yourself. It's so important for us to recognize what we want and to value that it is important that we get what we want. And this is like in the sense of getting the things that we need to be, again, to be okay. And I think that's something so important. We don't value ourselves enough to put our own needs first, to put our own self first, to put our own psyche first. And that's something that's so necessary. So identify those stressors, remove those stressors for your life if you can. And most importantly, above all else, do not try to stress other people out. Do not try to bring stress into other people's lives, because you don't want that for yourself. You causing stress in other people's life is just doing more damage and kind of perpetuating this type of energy where, like, your boss shits on you because they were shit on by their boss, and then you just, shit on your family because you are pissed off at your boss or something like that. It just continues to perpetuate, and then, your kids are going to be pissed off at their children for some reason that's unknown to them, because it's like the psychological distress that they've had since they were a child, because their parent always came home really pissed off. And whatever it is, it's a cycle that happens. And childhood PTSD is actually a thing. I'm not trying to blame parents at all. I mean, parents do their damnedest to provide for their kids, and I know so many great parents. But again, that stress does move through people, and it does move outside of the situations that originally caused that stress. So just recognize it as you interact with other people. If you're stressed out, you can say, I'm really stressed out. If you blow up on somebody, say, I'm so sorry, I'm really stressed out. this wasn't about you. I just need some time to breathe. I need some time to myself. It's okay. It's understandable, again, because we all go through it. We all experience it. And sometimes we say things that we don't mean. Sometimes we do things that we don't mean, but recognize that, like, that's something that happens and something that we all can understand. So if you ever do bring stress to someone else, this is a life, or bring your own stresses overflowing into the lives of others, then, just recognize that, know that, like, maybe it's not for them or not about them, and kind of take that time to get back to yourself and get back to a place of being okay. And that's really what it's all about. Notice your stresses and don't stress other people out, and don't bring stress to other people's lives, and that's really just about it. I feel like, there's definitely a lot that can be said about stress. There's definitely a lot of research out there about stress and just ways of maintaining it, the things that are detrimental to our health for it, and you can look all that stuff up yourself if you're really wanting to understand, like, all the different factors of stress. But I mean, the point is, we all know what stress is, whether we deal with it or not. It's important to have stress in certain situations, but 9 times out of 10, these stresses that we attribute as actual stress, these are the ones that we don't want for ourselves. So recognize them, do things to help yourself be okay, and don't pass them on to others. But yeah, that's all I got for this episode. Y'all can email me at everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com with any comments or questions or new topics that you'd like to see on the box. You can join the Instagram page at everything.sunpodcasts, or you can join the Twitter page at Every Sun Podcast, or you can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun with Ty. So yeah, love you all. Hope you have a stress-free week, and I will see you next time.